One peaceful night, a bright and luminous object falls into the ocean off a small island in Ireland. A group of fishermen witnesses the fall, and when they try to contact the authorities, a mysterious creature attacks them one by one. The next morning, a drunken policeman named Fred wakes up. Meanwhile, Lisa, a new Garda from central Dublin, arrives on the island. When Fred picks her up at the port, Lisa excitedly introduces herself as his temporary police partner. However, the drunken officer seems uninterested in having a temporary partner. Near the coast, Dr. Jim Gleason is walking his dog when he discovers dead whales on the beach. At the local station, Sergeant Kennefic welcomes Lisa thoughtfully. Then, Fred asks the sergeant, behind Lisa's back, why he needs a new partner, even though Kennefic will only be away for 2 weeks. Fred adds that he can handle the job alone, which Kennefic denies. Meanwhile, Paddy, a fisherman, captures a strange sea creature in his crab trap. He asks Murphy, another fisherman, to take a look and identify what it is. As Murphy observes, the creature squirts liquid in his face, irritating him, and then it leaves. As they head to the beach, Fred and Lisa start to get to know each other better. The woman describes the types of cases they deal with at the mainland station, and Fred assures her that there are no serious cases on the island. Upon arriving at the beach, local marine ecologist Adam Smith investigates the dead whales. When Smith sees Lisa, he shows interest in her. He asks how long she plans to stay in town until Fred intervenes, interrupting the conversation. The marine ecologist explains that what happened is common among pilot whales, but no one knows why. Lisa notices the cuts on the whale, to which he responds that they were caused by the rocks when they were brought ashore. Pondering, Fred wonders how the whales died all at once. Shortly after, the officers go to Cooney's construction site to ask the men for help moving the whales from the beach. At Paddy's house, the fisherman places the sea creature in his bathtub. After removing the whales from the coast, Cooney instructs his assistant, Daly, to get the shovels left on the beach. While Daly goes to fetch the shovels, he notices some large eggs half buried in the sand and decides to pick one up. Suddenly, something from the sea grabs Daly and drags him into the water. Later, Cooney grows tired of waiting for his assistant, so he goes to check on Daly, but he is nowhere to be found. At a local pub, Fred and Paddy hear on the news about the missing fisherman. Lisa, who just rented a room on the second floor of the pub, enters to grab an iron from Brian, the pub owner. She sees Fred, and they greet each other. The two men drink, and Paddy watches the young man as if he has something to say. Fred encourages him to speak, and the fisherman claims he found a sea monster. He jokingly adds that he put it in the bathtub to give it a bath. Fred, not taking it seriously, leaves the pub. Meanwhile, Murphy is watching TV while his wife Irene dries her hair when someone knocks at the door. Murphy checks who it is and finds Cooney outside. Upon opening the door, Cooney raises his hands strangely as if dancing, and then collapses. Worried, Murphy rushes to him until a tentacle pierces through his back and lifts him to the roof. Terrified, Irene screams and locks all the doors. Loud noises surround her, synchronized with her husband's cries for help. Irene discovers the chimney is open and tries to close it, but suddenly, the creature grabs her hand and pulls her through the chimney. Meanwhile, drunk Fred knocks on Lisa's door, wanting to drink something with her, but she declines. He makes some jokes, but the situation becomes odd when he accidentally bumps into Lisa's table, causing her belongings to fall. Lisa realizes how drunk he is and decides to take him back home. That night, Paddy returns home to find that the sea monster has disappeared. His trap is broken, and one egg has been left inside it. While searching for the creature, he sees a slimy substance on his mirror until a sudden sound startles him. Suddenly, the menacing sea monster with many tentacles attacks his face from the ceiling. Luckily, he manages to get free and steps on the creature. The next day, Brian's wife, Una, informs Lisa that a storm is approaching. Out of nowhere, Una asks if she is married, to which Lisa replies no. Una adds that Fred is also single, the only difference being that he is already a widower. At the station, Lisa unlocks the cell door where she brought Fred the night before after he passed out. In the middle of their conversation, the station phone suddenly rings. The officers then go to Smith's office, where Paddy had brought the monstrous sea creature. Smith investigates the creature that Paddy named the Grabber. Fred argues that the fisherman should name it since he was the one who discovered it. However, the marine ecologist disagrees, stating that the creature should be named according to its gender. According to Smith, the creature is an unknown species, and it is difficult to determine its origin or class. The group doesn't know if the creature is dead or alive. As they look closer at the grabber, Lisa sees something unusual on its tongue. Smith explains that the creature uses its tongue to rip its prey's throat, consuming its blood like a leech. He concludes that all this thing needs to survive is blood and water. Finally, the marine ecologist reveals that the creature is female, showing her egg. Later, as the officers return to the station, Fred spots Cooney's car on the beach, so they go there. He and his partner check the car, but find no one inside. Then, Fred spots the nearest house and they head over, discovering the lights are on, despite broad daylight. As the two look around, Lisa finds a piece of the roof that is broken. When they find a ladder, Lisa climbs up to the roof, where she discovers a piece of fabric caught on the chimney. She struggles to pull it as it seems to be stuck on something. Finally, she manages to pull it, and a head emerges, falling into Fred's face. He is horrified to realize it's Murphy's head. Soon after, they take Murphy's head to Dr. Jim. The doctor assumes that an animal could have attacked Murphy. Suddenly, Patty rushes through the door, startling them and interrupting the conversation. He takes Fred and Lisa to his house to show them the broken wall of his bathroom, with the bathtub outside. Suspecting the strange occurrences, the three analyze a map of the locations where the unusual events happened, discovering they are close to each other. They realize there may be a male grabber searching for the female. Lisa wonders how it can walk on land since, according to Smith, the creature needs water to survive. Patty replies that it rained the night before, which concerns them about the storm that might put the locations in danger. Afterward, they head to Black Rock Cave, believing it to be the grabber's lair. Patty decides to stay outside while the officers enter the cave. Once inside, Lisa finds a sailor's cloth on the floor and asks if any fishermen are missing. Meanwhile, Patty finds a grabber egg outside the cave. He touches it gently, but sudden movement inside the egg startles him. Inside the cave, Fred shouts to see if anyone is around, but no one responds. On his second shout, a huge tentacled monster appears. The two officers immediately abandon the cave, fearing for their lives. As they exit the cave, they calm down for a moment, hoping the creature can't pass through the narrow opening of the cave. Unexpectedly, the grabber's tongue grabs Fred's cap, and then they flee in terror. They find Patty, who is also terrified, pointing at the eggs. On the way to Smith's office, the officers call the mainland station due to the emergency. However, no one can come to the island because of the storm. When the trio arrives at the office, they quickly burn the female grabber that Smith was studying. Smith tries to warn them, but the fire alarm activates the sprinklers, spraying water on the creature. Patty cautiously exits the room, fearing that the grabber will wake up, while the other three try to turn off the water. Once it is turned off, they approach the creature, armed with whatever weapons they found. As they draw closer to the grabber, it sprays fluids in Fred's face and suddenly attacks him. Fred thrashes around the room, trying to remove the grabber from his face. When they manage to pry the monster off, it vomits blood. The trio steps on it to ensure it doesn't attack again. Afterwards, Patty enters the room and they all wonder how he managed to take down the grabber alone, given that it took all three of them to remove it from Fred's face. Smith suspects that the monster may not have liked Patty's blood. This makes them recall Patty's state of intoxication when he was attacked. His blood alcohol level was toxic due to the drinking, and since the creatures feed on blood, he almost poisoned himself when biting Patty. They conclude that if their blood is infected with alcohol, it may be poisonous to the grabber. Later, they convince Brian about their plan to keep everyone inside the pub overnight and get them drunk. Una enters, curious about what they are plotting. She then leaves them to focus on her work, convinced that they are planning something secret for her birthday. They continue the discussion outside the pub, where they decide to drink at Patty's level. However, Lisa isn't sure if her body can handle it. Fred chooses not to drink while everyone is drunk, so that someone can manage the situation soberly. Lisa calls Fred aside to talk privately and expresses her displeasure with his decision. He reminds her of how he acts when he's drunk, insisting it would be useless. When Lisa claims she has never been drunk in her life, Fred encourages her with motivational words. Smith interrupts the conversation, informing Lisa that she is the only healthy subject for a blood test. Moments later, Lisa is so drunk that she consumes everything Patty drank the night of the grabber attack, including his homemade drink. They then collect a blood sample from Lisa and force the grabber to drink. This immediately provokes a reaction that kills the female grabber, proving the effectiveness of their theory. Later that night, Fred and Lisa go to the church to invite the townsfolk to join them at Brian's pub. No one seems convinced at first, but they all show interest when told it would be free. At the pub, everyone is having fun and getting drunk. Meanwhile, the crew gathers in the kitchen to prepare their weapons against the creature. Except for Fred, everyone toasts with a drink. The rain begins to fall, and the two officers remain inside the car, where a drunken Lisa confesses her feelings for Fred. Simultaneously, Smith enters the kitchen and tastes Patty's drink, quickly becoming drunk. Meanwhile, Jim, who is still sober, goes outside to urinate, as the bathroom is occupied. In the car, Fred reveals that his wife did not die, but their relationship didn't work out. His wife found someone else, which made him depend on alcohol to numb his emotions. As everyone is celebrating, baby grabbers crawl towards the pub. After Jim urinates, he watches them closely until one of them attacks him. Hearing the doctor's screams, Fred and Lisa jump out of the car to help Jim. After they remove the small grabber from his face and push back the rest, they spot the huge male grabber approaching. Suddenly, the grabber's tentacle captures Jim just as they are about to flee. The monster swallows the doctor and spits out his head. Terrified, Fred and Lisa run towards the car, but the vehicle won't start. For a moment, silence envelops them as they realize the grabber is above them. Fortunately, Brian makes a call over a two-way radio, and Fred asks him to open the door. To distract the grabber, Fred turns on the car alarm, surprising the monster. When Brian opens the door, the two officers rush inside. Once in the kitchen, Smith is so drunk from Patty's drink. Fred and Lisa try to push the table to block the door, while Brian orders Smith to light his gun. Then, Brian confidently runs outside, but due to the rain, the fire on his weapon goes out immediately, leading Fred to save him from the monster. In the kitchen, Una finds them and does not understand what is happening. Everyone rushes out of the kitchen after hearing a noise at the door. At the pub, the locals are still having fun when Brian checks the drinks and finds almost nothing left. Then, Fred calls everyone's attention and informs them the party will continue upstairs, which makes people wonder why. Una confronts Brian, questioning if the party is really for her. Instead of answering his wife, Brian blames Patty for bringing the grabber, resulting in a fight. To reassure people that nothing is wrong, Lisa drunkenly mentions that nothing is trying to kill them, revealing the danger that is approaching. With everything out of order, Smith searches for a drink and goes outside to get more. The officers try to stop him, but he is too drunk to hear. Outside, Smith confronts the monster and takes pictures of it, claiming it is not that scary and won't harm him in his current state. After smelling Smith's breath, the grabber does not eat him but pushes him away, resulting in his death. Terrified, the officers return inside and force everyone to go upstairs, while the baby grabbers invade the ground floor. Upstairs, Fred informs the locals about the monster and how alcohol protected them from it. While the group hides, Lisa spots the boots she wore at Cooney's worksite. She remembers the grabber's truck at the construction site that could lift the monster and leave the body in the air until the sun dries it to death. However, to carry out the plan, they need Brian's truck keys, which are on the kitchen table. Fred offers to fetch them, but everyone stops him, claiming he is sober and could be attacked by the baby grabbers. They need someone drunk enough to confuse the grabbers. Lisa volunteers to do it, as she is the drunkest in the room. Soon after, she enters the pub with the baby grabbers, drunk enough not to fear them. Inside the kitchen, she grabs Patty's homemade drink and a lighter, then searches for the keys under the table. Suddenly, the grabber opens the door behind her. It alarmed her, and she shoots at it with her nail gun, accidentally hitting the power source, resulting in a blackout. Startled, Lisa leaves the kitchen and uses the lighter for illumination. Unexpectedly, the grabber grabs her feet, causing her to drop the lighter, which ignites the pub. Fortunately, she finds a kitchen knife and manages to break free from the monstrous sea creature. Seconds later, the fire spreads to the stairs, which worries Fred. He jumps out the window and sees Lisa driving Brian's truck. Fred leaps into the vehicle just before being nearly caught by the grabber's tentacle. The monster continues to pursue them, and Brian calls, saying everyone is evacuating now that the monster is out of sight. After arriving at Cooney's construction site, Fred goes to the pit to lure the monster. He points his gun at the barrels of oil in the hole, hoping the monster will fall inside. However, the monster grabs Fred with its tongue, causing him to fall into the pit. He quickly grabs the weapon and aims it at the barrels of oil as the grabber slowly approaches. Behind the grabber, a light appears unexpectedly. Lisa, driving a backhoe, runs over the sea monster and traps it in the pit. Then, Lisa exits the truck while Fred climbs out of the hole using the ladder. Thinking they've finally defeated the monstrous creature, they celebrate with Patty's drink until a tentacle wraps around Fred's waist and drags him back into the pit. He is about to be devoured by the grabber, so he pours the drink into the creature's mouth, intoxicating it and causing Fred to be thrown to the ground. Lisa quickly grabs the weapon and shoots the barrels of oil, making them explode and burning the grabber alive. The next day, Brian invites Patty for a drink to restore their friendship. Meanwhile, Fred and Lisa walk down the road. She hands him her drink, but he throws it away. Finally, they share their affection for each other with a kiss. Then, the couple excitedly talks about their future, considering adopting Jim's dog. Everyone believes that the peaceful life of the town will soon return to normal, unaware that more grabber eggs are waiting on the shore to hatch and invade again.